Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be creating these 3 mini slimline cards using a new product that has just hit my craft room. That product is the Tailored Expressions Magnetic Glass Mat. So I'm going to talk about this in detail in just a moment, but I also wanted to share with you some Tailored Expressions apparel if you're interested in any of this. This is in partnership with another website, so I will provide those links down below in the video description. So here is a look at the Tailored Expressions Magnetic Glass Mat. It is a large mat and it has a very specific design that I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to try and zoom out to show you the full. I can't actually show you the full thing because then you'll see a ton of my messy desk and my cords, but there is this beautiful border all the way around that has that teal color and then some rainbow stripes. Now, this mat is made of a tempered glass. It is magnetic. It has a magnet on the back of the glass work surface. It measures 18 by 24, but the measurements or the grids in the inside is 15 by 21. So here I'm trying to push out my cords to show you the full thing. Obviously, I can't get all the way to the top, which is why I haven't shown it yet in videos. It's just because I need to do some adjusting with my camera. A couple of the features that make this glass mat so unique are the grid lines that are already pre-printed on here. Now, these are not printed on the glass, they're kind of underneath the glass, but these are specific to Tailored Expressions products. So here we have kind of that placement for a triple slim stencil. If you're familiar with Tailored Expressions, triple slim and also the quads, there are the grid lines here, just like on their paper placemats. They have some available for stencils. So we have these grid lines that you can put your cardstock down. One of the things I really love, and you've probably seen in my videos numerous times, is a glass mat. I have been working on glass mats for a long time now. I love how easy they are to clean up. And this mat may look familiar because Tailored Expressions does also carry a travel glass mat. They have landscape and portrait orientation grid lines for an A2 size card, also grid lines for a 6x6 stencil. There is the color catcher on the right-hand side, which on the large glass mat, you have a bigger version. If you like the smaller size, that mini glass mat is available in the store. It has been for a while along with a case. So if you like to travel or go crafting somewhere, that is a great option. Now we have the larger glass mat, which has been available a couple times throughout the year. And I am just finally kind of bringing it or introducing it into my craft room. Now, in order for me to try and get the most out of this on camera for you, I do need to adjust it. So I'm trying to shift it down because I want to make some mini slimline cards using a mini slimline layering stencil. So I'm going to try and bring it in as much as I can so you can see as much as you can of the stencil. And of course, it is white, which I personally love blending on a white glass mat because I can see all the colors and I don't have to worry about getting any smudges on my white cardstock. For today's project, I'm going to be using the Triple Slim in the Garden layering stencil along with the Triple Slim pre-cut panels. Now, what I like to do instead of messing with that sticky end down at the bottom is just trim off the top, and it's a lot easier for me to pull my cardstock out of these packs. I do keep my Triple Slim and Create and Quad stencils in these pockets along with the cardstock. If I just keep these cardstocks in these pockets and in the binder for them, it's a lot easier to find everything. Now, since this is a pre-cut panel, it is going to fit within the grid line for the triple slim layering stencil. So you have that blue outline, and this is going to fit kind of right inside of those lines. Now, I'm going to take some repositionable tape and I'm going to place this on the back a couple times. Once I, hold the tape the right way, I'm going to put that on there and it's going to secure down to my work surface so it doesn't move around while I'm stenciling. And then I'm going to bring in the Triple Slim in the Garden layering stencil. This is a 4-piece layering stencil that's going to give me 3 mini slimline cards. You can use the registration bars that are on the side of the stencil to help line this up and make sure everything is placed perfectly. There's also an etched line on the stencil, so that's going to line up with my cardstock. And before I begin, I want to make sure that they're all facing the right direction. So down, I think it's in the bottom right-hand corner. It'll tell you 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I always make sure they're facing the right direction and they're all in order. Once I line up the etch line of the stencil with my cardstock on my glass mat, I'm going to hold the stencil down with some teal tape. Any type of washi tape or even Post-it tape will work here. Now I can begin to ink blend. So I am using my blending brushes, and this is green tea ink. This is one of the new colors that was just released recently, so I'm excited to play with it and see how it's going to look with my card. I'm also using the teal embossing pad from Tailored Expressions to hold my ink pad. I always like to have something like either a silicone mat to hold my ink pads. It just keeps it from moving around on the glass surface. So I went through and applied that green tea ink all over the front of the stencil. Now this is the first layer of the stencil, and I want to step it up just a little bit. So I'm bringing in Poblano Pepper, it's kind of hard for me to say, and a small detail blending brush. And I'm going to add that darker color kind of down towards the bottom of each of these green stems. This is going to add a little bit more interest to the background, make it almost look like I had more layers to the stencil than I really do. Then I'm just going to remove that teal tape. I can remove the first layer of the stencil, and this is how our card is looking so far. So there are going to be 3 different sections to create 3 different mini slimline cards. And huge pointer right here is wipe up your ink around your cardstock. I definitely learned a lesson there. So this is actually take 2 of this card panel because I didn't wipe up my ink and I couldn't figure out why my pink was turning green. For the second layer of the stencil, I am bringing in rose water, very, very beautiful pink. This is actually one of my favorite pinks, and I'm going to apply that over all of this open area of the second layer of the stencil. Again, I'm going to step this up, and here I'm bringing in pink champagne. Again, using these detail blending brushes, and I keep my detail blending brushes in this case. This is actually a case that the brushes come in. I ordered quite a few sets. I took them all and I put them in one case. I like the case. It's pretty. It's got a magnetic clasp to it, and it just goes in my drawer nicely. The third layer of the stencil is going to be with banana cream pie, a very pale yellow. And I know this may surprise you guys that I use kind of these light colors, but I do like to also step them up by bringing in that additional color. If you've seen me before, you know I love my ink blending, I love my stencils, and I also love high contrast. So this is honey that I'm going to be using. I kind of start in the center of a lot of these flowers and work my way out, trying to be real careful because I still want to keep that highlight color, that banana cream pie. This is one of the main reasons why I like having these different size brushes in my stash is because I can really control how much color I'm putting down and where it's going. Now I can remove the teal tape and show you this layer of the stencil, what this is looking like. These colors together are absolutely gorgeous. I am loving it, and I didn't want to take away from it, or I didn't want it to get lost with my next color. So I'm bringing in a light blue, and this is saltwater taffy. I actually keep a brush separate just for saltwater taffy because it can get contaminated with my darker colors, and I really wanted that light color there. Now I'm going to bring in macaron, I never get that right, and a detail blending brush, and I'm adding a little bit of that purple down towards the bottom. This is still that same layer of the stencil. It wasn't quite enough for me. It wasn't dark enough. So I brought in dried fig. I love combining blues and purples because I think they make the most beautiful blends. So I did that across the entire front of the stencil, adding that contrast with that dried fig. I'm removing that last layer of the stencil, and now we have these 3 panels ready to go. To remove the cardstock, I'm just going to pick it up in one corner, kind of twist and turn, pull it up, and the repositionable tape wipes away easily off of the glass surface and also the back of my cardstock. So I will bring in my paper trimmer, and I'm going to trim this down. Since this was pre-cut, I can line it up to 3 1/4 and cut these into those panels. So that's why I love these pre-cut card panels. It makes it so easy to trim these down. So here's a final look at those panels, which would make great card fronts all on their own, but I really do like adding a backer to them. So I'm going to use the Petite Scallop Mini Slimline, and I will be die cutting 3 of these out of a green tea cardstock. My stenciled panels are a little big for that scallop mat, so I am going to trim them down, and I'm going to do this to about 3 by what did I do? 3 by 5.5. And I just did a little bit on each end, trying to make sure that everything kind of stays fairly even. And I'll do that for all of the panels. And that's going to fit nicely onto that scallop border or that scallop mat that I created. And using that green tea cardstock just ties in nicely with the green tea that I used for the leaves in my background. Off screen, I went ahead and used some white cardstock and I cut another panel for each of these to be about a little smaller than each panel. So I'm going to use a tape runner and attach those plain white pieces of cardstock behind each one. I do this almost on every card where I just add an additional panel. That's going to help prevent if I use any foam tape behind it, you're not going to see the outlines of the foam tape. I've noticed that on some of my cards sometimes. So I like adding those panels back there. And then if I don't use any foam tape, I still have that little bit of lift and dimension. I really contemplated for a while if I was going to use splatters or not. I was worried with the white background that these white splatters wouldn't show up, but I couldn't resist. I did bring in that, what is it, bleed proof white that Taylor carries, and I added splatters of that to each of the card panels. I'm glad I did because I really like the white splatters over the colorful flowers. So I'm going to set these off on the side, and while they are drying, I'm going to work on my sentiment. And I decided to do some foiling. These are the modern sentiment labels. It is a foliage sheet, so they are pre-printed toner panels, and it's going to use toner foil. There are a few different designs in this packet. I couldn't decide which ones I wanted to use, so I pulled at least 3 different sheets out of this pack that I decided to foil, and then whatever's left over, I'm just going to stick back into the packet and save for a later date. The foil that I'm going to use is the champagne foil. I love the color champagne, whether it is glimmer foil or toner foil. Champagne is just one of my favorites. So I have my fuse foiling system warming up off on the side. You could also use your mini mink machine. I have that warming up. And while that's warming up, I'm going to trim out my foil. So I lined it up with the card panel, and I'm using my Spellbinders shears to trim this out. And then I'm going to take a Swiffer cloth and I'm going to buff over all of my panels and also the back of my foil. You're going to notice with this that the back of the foil is kind of that silver, while the front of the foil is that pretty champagne. Now, when I do this, it's going to be your toner or your print design facing up and also the pretty side of your toner foil facing up. I place that into my sleeve and I'm going to run that through my fuse foiling system. And while that's doing that, I like to go ahead and start prepping the rest of my panels. So I pull these out. I do let it sit for about maybe 20 seconds to cool off. And then I can peel back that foil and I have all of these beautifully foiled sentiments. I'm going to try and bring this up into the light to show you how shiny it is, but when it comes to foiling, you really just can't get the appreciation of the foil until you see it in person. It is super pretty. I love all the different sentiments on here, and the style of these labels is just something really different that I don't see a lot. So here's my other panel. We have Just a Note. There's a couple where how is that? You're so awesome. Something like that. Something awesome. You're pretty awesome. I think I actually use that one. I just love all those different sentiments. And then I have my last one here that I did. So just a really fun and unique design. There are also coordinating dies to die cut out all of these sentiments, and there's also a backer die. So you can die cut them out. You could trim it out yourself too. And then there's also a backer die to add behind that where you could add some layers. So off screen, I'm going to go ahead, trim out my dies, and then also get some sentiments die cut. You've probably seen me do this many times throughout my videos is where I will die cut out another piece of white cardstock, just like I did with my panels, and I layer that together with liquid glue. I actually do, I think, about 2 layers behind each of the sentiments just to help build up that dimension and stability. And then for the back of each of the panels, I am adding some foam strips. So that's going to help kind of pop my stencil panel up a little bit from that scalloped background. Then I'll remove the backing from the foam tape and add this to my green tea cardstock that I die cut out. One thing I would suggest is maybe putting a little bit of repositionable tape behind that green tea cardstock or whatever cardstock you're going to use, because then that way it won't move around on the work surface while you're trying to attach your panel. I had mine kind of move a little bit. I was a little nervous that some of my panels would be crooked. So I would suggest trying to secure that down so it doesn't move, or even maybe use a silicone mat to help hold that in place. Then I'm just going to take my liquid glue, add it to the back of each of the sentiments, and add them to the front of the card. I didn't add any additional foam tape because I do have in total 3 layers, including the sentiment layer. I have 3 layers of cardstock for the sentiment. And then here is a final look at each of the cards that I will be adding to card bases. Tailored Expressions also sells envelopes for the mini slimline cards. I think they're just a really fun design, kind of a different landscape to work with. And I really need to do them more because I think they are so cute. I will have all of the supplies I used today listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. I hope you enjoyed today's little video and introduction to the Tailored Expressions glass mat and creating these fun mini slimline cards. Thank you so much for joining me today.